Shh.
What is that? What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the College Football After Dark here on the Voice of College Football. We've got a lot to go into, but one, thank you everyone for joining. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the like button, share it out. It helps to build the channel a lot, helps Mark a lot. And then we need to also address the brand new release that Mark just did for the new bottom 10 list. Go to the main channel, check out the bottom 10 list. He just published it a little bit ago, as well as the Big 12 channel and the new SEC channel. So if you're a fan of either of those conferences, make sure you go subscribe to those channels and check out all of their work each and every week. And gentlemen, we have reached the end of week 5. Week 6 if you count week 0, whatever. How are we feeling?
Why is everything
good.
Starting to separate the men from the boys now.
Yeah, the game should actually start getting a little better. I think you have a week off, Ben, next week, and then we're going to see that. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm catching myself looking forward to weeks ahead now. But yeah, we'll get a little bit of picture in a couple of weeks. But we are starting to see some teams that we thought would be world beaters start to look very, very human for the first time in a couple of years. So that'll be an interesting conversation. Now, Susie, who is beeping? Because it's getting a bit weird.
Yeah, I know. Hold on. I'm gonna try it. I don't know if it's Will or it's Spaz. I'm not sure. Someone is beeping though. So we're gonna see how this goes. I know, Jackson, you're in high spirits after a nice, comfortable, relaxing weekend on your end.
Well, I mean, it wasn't going to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood for Mr. Rogers in Starkville last night, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that. That's not going so well. Mike, I know you had a nice, comfortable weekend also.
Yeah, with the obliteration of the fake 1997 champion, the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Nebraska. Weren't they just the greatest 3-9 team ever just a few years ago?
Oh yeah, that's their calling card for basically ever since they joined the Big Ten when they started becoming irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were the greatest in something.
Whatever you did, it's gone.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the BB in this SC, so perfect. Will, you had a very stressful.
Yes,
but
it's been very stressful the past 2 weeks. I might need to go to therapy over all of this stressful college football, but we ended up winning. I mean, I knew the game. I knew if we were going to lose to Ohio State, I knew the Duke game was going to be stressful because, the Marshall game was stressful last year too. But, I mean, we have a better team than last year, so we were able to win. But there's plenty of things to clean up from that game. I mean, 3 from 15 for third down is not good. It's just not good. So, yeah. I mean, we do have a lot of our 3 of our 4 top receivers out, and our receiver that is playing has butterfingers. So, but luckily Mitchell Evans is starting to step up at tight end. So,
What was your take on Duke? I mean, did you think that the hype
Duke's
going
a good,
game
very well coached team on defense? I mean, they have dudes on defense. Riley Leonard's a dude. I hope he's not. I know he's going to be out for a few weeks. Hopefully, he's back for that Florida State game. But
yeah, that did not look very good when he went down. That did not look good.
And besides the receivers, Will, if you were to point to one thing to give me some optimism going into South Bend in a couple of weeks, what troubles you the most about the Irish team?
Just closing. I mean, what troubles me the most? I'm not sold on Jared Parker, man. Like, I felt good going into him in Ohio State, but he hasn't been that much better than Tommy Rees so far. But hopefully it's just because, hopefully once, the recruits start to develop, the high ceiling recruits we've been getting under Freeman, because the floor guys have been playing and been doing pretty well. But those high ceiling guys like Braylon James, hopefully Parker offense will start to look better then. But yeah, overall, I'm not that impressed. I mean, I think he'll score points against Alex Grinch's defense, but will it be enough?
Who doesn't? But yeah, I get you.
Yeah. But I felt the defense was played pretty much lights out. I mean, they let a couple plays go, but for yards, but only 14 points. I can't complain. The defense played well. Howard Cross had a huge game. So, yeah, onward to Louisville. Hopefully, it's a more comfortable game.
Spaz, I know you had a relatively relaxing weekend also. Not too much stress on our end.
Yeah, no, my question for Will is, can Notre Dame score over 21 points in a game? Because you might need it against Williams and USC.
No, that was
they
my
don't have
bad.
defense.
That was my bad. They did against NC State. In all fairness, they did put up like 45, wasn't it, Will?
I mean, we scored 40 points the first couple of games, and then the Ohio State game comes, and we don't do as well in offense. But it's Ohio State, and then Duke, we struggled again. But
Well, you know,
I'm
Will, if
put up 40 on Louisville.
you guys play 11 guys on the field, you probably give up less points.
Oh, that was going to get brought up.
Thanks.
Will's like, it's too soon. It's still too soon.
It's not even field yet, is it, Will? Sorry, Will.
Yeah, but USC has 11 guys, and they can't keep Colorado from throwing for 600 yards.
This is true.
Let's see, what does that say, Jackson?
I think they only threw for 400, didn't they?
I said, here you go.
There we go.
I'm just hoping he's back for Florida State because I think they have a shot at Florida State the way that they've been playing recently.
I think they do too.
Yeah, that's tough because when he went down, you could tell he was in pain.
Yeah,
and he is their offense. I mean,
oh yeah.
Dude's been fantastic. I mean, it was pretty cool that Sam Hartman went to go check on Riley Leonard, see how he was doing.
Yeah,
it's so bad. It was at the last, literally last minute of the game. Almost. Yeah. It's like, oof.
Well, Derek's in a good mood. Thanks for stopping by, Derek. Appreciate all of your positivity, bringing it to the universe. I hope that works out for you.
Oh, you know you're going to take some barbs today,
Tim.
Just prepare for it.
Tim's like, I've already had enough of this in the last 24 hours. On his
You would have thought that after about 18 months that the Oklahoma people could relax a little bit.
Tim, you'll have your fun after next week's games. You'll have your fun forever.
I think the stalking's getting to a scary level. I don't know. More fun fanfare. USC going 8-4. Probably not. That might be a bit overreactive there, Snake. But once again, thank you for bringing your positivity to the universe. It makes a lot to all of us.
Oh yeah, man.
7-3. It's better than 8-4.
Yeah.
And as someone asked here, Mike Rotonda, I know he's around all the time, so we want to address this. I just dropped it in the little ticker below and in the description section. Anyone can actually join in once they get on our Discord for Mark, and it's through either becoming a Patreon member, which is just MarkRogersTV at Patreon in the description section, or become a YouTube member, and then just let Mark know, hey, and then he'll give you the Discord link, and then you can join in this panel every week. So that is exactly how come on the show. But definitely participating in the chat still gives us a lot to talk about. But that is exactly how you do it. So please go check out the Patreon or become a YouTube member here for Mark. Helps him out a lot, and that is exactly how you do that. Let's see. Well, again.
It just makes me laugh.
Perfect segue, because as the title says, defense apparently is optional. LSU. 706 yards given up to Ole Miss. What the hell?
I had to take a look. I had to take a look just briefly at points per drive and just take a look at exactly exactly what that takes LSU to on the season. LSU currently opponents points per drive is 2.71. Good for 101 in the country.
Ooh, man.
So how about them SEC defenses, folks? You know what I mean? Down the bayou, you don't just walk into Death Valley and walk away with a win, right? Unless you got a pulse in an offense, because then you absolutely will.
All right.
Mhm.
I mean, this is just a team in Ole Miss. They got, held in check by Alabama, and everyone's, we've given Alabama, we know the defense, okay, the offense has been kind of questionable, but to give up that to Ole Miss is like, holy crap.
Watching Paul Finebaum this week, and when he talks about the SEC, it's glorious. You have to go check it out. You can tell it's just killing this man, absolutely killing him. To talk about how poorly the SEC performing. I mean, he makes his living off of telling us that we're serfs and we're lucky to be involved in this thing called the playoffs. And he started to scratch together. He actually was almost about to break down and cry when he thought about a scenario where like a 2-loss Alabama beats Georgia in the championship, where there would be no SEC team in the playoffs. And like he literally looked like he was about to cry. So it's a good watch. You guys should go check it out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not watching Finebaum. I'm sorry.
I mean, Notre Dame fan, I feel like it's against the law to watch Paul Finebaum.
Nomeha said Nomehi. I want to say that's the right pronunciation. He says that Ole Miss gave up over 600 too. SEC doesn't play defense anymore. LOL. But in all actuality, that's correct. Ole Miss gave up 637 yards. They allowed that many yards, but here's the thing right there. LSU allowed 706 total yards.
Well, I just like it. And there was another comment before, but yeah, watching Lane Kiffin on like the final couple drives and seeing his hairdo was fantastic outside of that visor. It was just like he had been ripping at his hair all night.
Did he go to Donald Trump's hairdresser? Is that like the same look?
I don't know what was going on. You could tell he was stressed.
It looked like he stuck his finger in the light socket and transported himself back to 1980.
Brian Kelly's face looked like it was going to melt at any moment last night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, good Lord. But
it did.
Yeah. But
what game are we on, by the way?
we have a game here? We're kind of between LSU and Ole Miss. Yeah, okay. We're just kind of between those two.
Yeah, this is the second win for Lane Kiffin against Brian Kelly.
Yeah, it was the game when Notre Dame was about to tie the game, and then Dane Chris fumbled it. Yeah,
was that an SC game?
Yeah, 2011. 2011 on NBC.
Let's be sarcastic, yeah.
2010 was the year that Brian Kelly snapped the winning streak.
Yeah, that was the Harrison Smith interception.
Yeah.
So, Will, do you think Brian Kelly's going to do it for LSU? Or?
No, I never thought. Brian Kelly, he's never going to win a big game. He's never going to win an SEC championship game. He's never going to win a playoff game. This is Brian Kelly. This is who he is.
I haven't seen our resident LSU corn dog lately.
Yeah, where did he go? Is it Deluge? Delane?
With John something.
John DeLone, yeah.
Well, LSU is now out of the national title hopes, but they still got SEC title hopes.
But they're not out of the rankings for some stupid reason.
Yeah, we have the rankings conversation because I don't know how that's possible. But
yeah, how does it? Yeah,
and
2-loss teaming, you're still there.
And I don't get it. Maryland is 5-0 and they're not ranked. Yeah. And none of their games.
They're not ranked.
Maryland is not ranked. They're 5-0, 2-0 in the conference, and they haven't had a game that's been less than 3 scores, but they're not ranked.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little insulting.
Yeah, but we got to get into the AP because I think there's some we definitely have some disputes with some of the voting going on in there. Let's see.
Maryland is ranked.
No,
probably
they're
not.
not. They're like 26.
That's what I thought. I mean, Mark's in there saying Maryland's ranked. So I don't remember seeing Maryland ranked in the newest poll.
No, they're like 26.
Maybe in his poll.
Oh
yeah. Well, in Mark's, the top 25 that matters. Also, if you haven't checked that video out, make sure you go and check that one out. Mark released it earlier today, again, as well as the new bottom 10 just released fresh from Mark. Go check that out. Make sure to. I know we'll skip this one for now because Will is here. I want to make sure Will gets his moment. As we mentioned, Notre Dame over Duke in a pretty stressful situation, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was in a stream there with Chris and Tony. That helped out a bit. But
Chris is lashing out at us.
That's fine.
Well, so was Mark.
I
Apologies.
haven't begun to complain about the fact that I don't think Washington dropped in Mark's poll. Did they? Did Washington drop?
I don't think so.
Mark, let me know if Washington dropped in your poll. But I don't remember. It didn't appear like they did. Curious about that.
But yeah,
hopefully this is a wake-up game for the guys because, it was not a pretty game. Our big and most talented guys, they showed up at the end and saved the game for us, and the defense played well, but the offense just got to pick it up. I know we were missing receivers, but the offense just has to pick it up because, we have the quarterback, and the offense still looks like it did under Reese and Kelly in that game. At least it did. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, like Jaden Greyhouse, Deion Colsey, and
Merriweather
and Jaden Thomas. Well, Merriweather has butterfingers, man. Like he had the talent is there.
Yeah, I think he's your best receiver, but he just can't put it together.
He can't catch the freaking football, man.
That is important too. Yeah.
I'm losing my mind, man. He forces pass interference. Like he forced Ohio State to have pass interferences, and that was good. But he's got to. He has the talent to be an NFL caliber receiver. He just can't put it together. And it's extremely aggravating to watch. Because if we had him if he was at his ability, if he played up to his ability, he would be right up there with Marvin. Maybe not right up there with Marvin Harrison Jr., but a top 10 wide receiver. He just can't.
I'm not sure if I'm going that. I will, but he is an NFL. He is an NFL wide receiver that could work himself into second, maybe first round, possibly. But for whatever reason, he can't catch the ball, and that's problematic when you're a wide receiver.
Freaking catch, man! Oh my god.
Yeah,
but our running backs are awesome. Like Audrey Estimate, Jeremiah Love on the fake punt. He's going to be awesome. He's only a freshman. He was our highest rated recruit from the last class, and he's already making a difference. So I can't wait to see him play under the touchdown Jesus for the next 2 years. So that's great. The defense played great. The D line played great. People have been dogging on the D line, but they showed up today. Howard Cross had a huge game. He was the main star of the show. JD had a lot of tackles as well. So yeah, we're moving on to Louisville. It's going to be it's going to be a hostile environment there in Louisville, unlike Durham. No offense to the Duke fans, but there was 40% Notre Dame fans there. So hopefully,
Louisville's undefeated too, aren't they? Will?
Yeah, they're ranked 25th now in the AP poll.
Yep, 5-0.
Who's their quarterback? That's quarterback from Cal, right?
Jack Plummer.
Jack Plummer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was he also at Purdue? Or is that somewhere else? He wasn't. I know Aiden O'Connell beat out the guy. I thought that was Plummer too.
It might have been.
I don't know why that sounds right, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's that might have been actually. I think that is correct. I'm not 100% sure.
He did not have a good time against the 2021 Marcus Freeman coach defense. So
Search would know.
Hopefully it's a 20-plus point win.
I think that's a different Plummer.
Yeah,
that's not the
Plummer
same
was
time
that.
they went to
Yeah,
Arizona
that's
State.
what I thought. Yeah, my memory isn't that bad. So hopefully he looks just as bad as he did a couple years ago, and we have a 21. I'm hoping for like an NC State like performance from the boys in Louisville. So
Mark says Plummer was at Purdue.
yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopeful that this next performance is less stressful and that I don't freak out.
Do it, Mark. Do it. Give me the night off. Do it.
I think I've been on Mark's network probably more than he has this weekend. Wait a minute.
What did we do?
We're just talking about the AP, and he's like, "Stop it."
Yeah, watch Mark's poll. That's the poll that matters.
The only thing that Mark
I
likes
just
more than
use
the
it
AP poll, the only thing that Mark likes more than the AP poll is when we try to guess where game day will be. That's Mark's favorite cocktail talk is where will game day be in week 7. He loves that. So if you ever meet Mark in real life, you want to make some points, ask him about game day and where the location is going to be. He loves that.
He might buy you a cheeseburger.
You're still holding on, Ben.
Anyways, going back to Friday night in the place that Tim hates to play at, and luckily he won't have to for any foreseeable future, because Utah found out also the Beavers, the mighty Oregon State Beavers, took down the struggling Utah Utes. Utah has no offense without Rising.
That's just it right there.
Well, is Rising ever going to be 100% this season?
Knowing
Well,
Utah, USC, he'll come back 100% for USC and just be like Superman out there, just running over people. So yeah, he's coming back this season. The question is, I do sincerely mean this. I really hope one, he comes back completely healthy, and two, that he stays healthy, because he's had trouble with injuries throughout his career, and we all know it won't be his needle mess up. He's not played this. He hasn't banged around for a while, and football is a game where you got to toughen your body up. You go in there, you start taking hits, and that guy does not shy away from a hit. That's the thing about him. And if he goes out there playing like 110%, like he does, Rising does every single time, then that's a recipe for some body damage. So, I hope we get to play Rising. I really do. He's a great player, and he's a big part of. Look at this team without him. I mean, honestly, it doesn't not look like Utah without him. So, I think he's going to be back. I think the plan all along is just to get him healthy they want to win the Pac-12, right? It's the last time there's a Pac-12. I can see Whittingham saying, "Hey, look, we're gonna win this thing. We're gonna go out winning 3 straight Pac-12 championships and call it a day." I think that's really what his goal is. And he was really lucky to get past UCLA, but he got hammered on this one because you don't just walk into Reser Stadium and walk out with a victory. It just doesn't happen. So,
actually, Tim, there was a report that came out yesterday from a guy in Utah that said Rising's meeting with the surgeons and doctors and everybody Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and if he's not cleared, then he's going to redshirt the rest of the year and go to the end, declare himself for the NFL.
I think it would be technically gray shirt, because I don't think he can redshirt anymore. But yeah, he's going to get the season.
But he's gonna if they don't clear him this week, he's gonna finish the season just on the bench and go into the NFL.
He's probably figuring who do they play this week? Utes are playing.
They got a bye week.
They
have a bye week next week, but in week 7 they got to play California, so that's going to be a bit of a breather for Utah. But I have some stats that involve Utah's offense. 2022 with Cam Rising, they had 39 points per game. This year without Cam Rising, they've had 19.2 points per game. 2022 with Cam Rising, 467 total yards per game. This year, they've had an average of 296 total yards per game. And this year, last year with Cam Rising, they had an average of 249 passing yards per game. And this year without Rising, an average of 153.8 passing yards per game. But you round out the average to 154 yards.
Yeah, without
Not a
Rising, it's totally different. I mean, that man has driven this team. Without him, you can see the drop off.
Yeah.
No running game. There's no Zach Moss on this team.
I just don't think there is a team. Well, I'm not sure. Well, there's definitely not a team in the Pac-12, and I include USC in this, that drops as much without their starting core. Well, I don't know. What did you guys see about Oregon?
Yes, they would drop, I think.
Because your back
relatively
is
significantly.
not the greatest. But I was
He's
still
not proven. He's not proven, so.
I think that the range that with Rising, Utah was clearly a team that could win the Pac-12. Clearly, without him, they've got no chance.
I'm surprised you kept USC out of that. I think USC without Caleb Williams is being a little bit of trouble.
I would drop them. I would drop them, but not nearly as much as I would drop if like, for instance, Oregon lost Nix or because behind Nix, they don't have anybody. They really don't. We do. Miller Moss is a capable backup. I think we have zero chance of making the playoffs with if Caleb went down. But I think we'd have an outside shot of winning the conference. Whereas I think that we saw what happened when you guys lost Nix. With Nix, you guys were almost unbeatable. Without Nix, you guys were dropping games. So,
and that's why I agree with that type of comparison, because he has Ty has looked better behind Nix this year so far, but he's unproven. So I would expect there still to be a decent drop off. I have to agree with that. It's like, let's see here. And yes, Utah is at home. That defense is dangerous. So, but they need Rising badly. We've got to shoot into here because, of course, we have Mr. Two Changs.
That's my friend.
Dropping that again.
Hey, look, he's
Hello,
giving you lunch money.
Oregon and Washington both get a bye before they play next week. The only time they will meet is top 10 teams, and Ducks are 12-7 versus USC since 1994. I will let you and Tim go at that Two Changs, but we appreciate the super chat as always. It helps the channel a lot.
Yeah.
And
since the dawn of the beginning of the college football, way back in 1994, when college football first began, Oregon has owned this sport. That's all I'm going to tell you guys. Two Changs, I'm with you, buddy.
We appreciate it. Everyone who drops a super chat, a super sticker, it means a lot. And it helps also just highlight your comments to us so that we make sure we see them, because obviously there's a lot of comments. We can't catch them all. So again, Two Changs, thank you very much for that, as well as Slap Happy with the super sticker. Slap Happy's back again. We appreciate that with your contribution there. It means a lot. I do want to highlight something, but I'm going to give Slap Happy a little FaceTime here for that. We have, of course, I think besides those, then we have to give to Real MVP, who's in the chat, some love for Kentucky running all over Florida. Once again, defense is optional, apparently, when you give up 280 rushing yards to one man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of yards.
Yeah.
Well, we also need to remember that the Tennessee game, I believe that's going to come down as a little bit of an anomaly. Florida is not a good team this year. So, I mean, I'm not taking it away from Kentucky. A solid win. I mean, they beat them pretty good, but Florida is not going to be a good team this year. So, I mean, let's slow off on, crowning Kentucky the next challenger to Georgia.
Oh, no. That's only DeReal doing that. I don't think anyone else is doing that.
But we'll say, though, that this is the longest winning streak that Kentucky has now over Florida since 1948 through 1951 from the Bear Bryant era. So that is pretty darn impressive for Mark Stoops. Now, from 2013 to 2017, he was winless, although they did get screwed over in 2014. The defense wasn't doing so hot 2017 on in the fourth quarter. 2016, that should have been a win right there. But from 2018 to now, Mark Stoops is now 4-2 against Florida. So that is pretty big for Kentucky football right there.
And thank you again, Two Changs. And apparently, Oregon is still 3-4 versus Pete Carroll. Nothing has changed since last week. So thank you so much for the $2 super chat. You're awesome. I'm so glad we got you here to remind us about college football history. Well done. Appreciate you your donation very much. Thank you, Two Changs. You are truly my favorite chat person in the chat.
Maybe he can even compete with Jack.
What was their record? What was the record versus USC prior to 94? Like 3-20?
The thing is that series goes back a long ways. I don't know the actual number, but I think it might be.
I know it wasn't good.
I have to think that it probably wasn't much different. Except for the Dan Fouts years, I'm not thinking they were winning a lot of games, probably.
Wow.
Well, Florida's got plenty of room to rebound next Saturday against Vandy, but let's be honest, it should be pretty easy to rebound against Vandy, but then again, they couldn't get it done last year. But as for Kentucky, they got a big matchup against Georgia ahead of them.
Well, let's give Kentucky and DeReal a little bit of happiness, because prior to a few years ago, Florida owned, just literally had, lock, stock, barrel owned that. I think they had I think Kentucky beat Florida once since like the mid-'80s.
Yeah. Well, let me see. 1987 through 2017. That was a long winning streak that Florida had over Kentucky.
I think they had like one since the Reagan administration. So, let Kentucky fans have this one.
Yeah, that's for sure. What a magnificent job by Ray Davis in the running game. 280 yards. Congrats to this young man. Fantastic game against Florida.
Sorry, we are listening, but the chat is going off with Two Changs and Tim now.
That's a lot. I think Mark, you check the math of that. You get to, because that's too many games since '94 when football started. They must have have they been meeting each other 4 or 5 times a year? Because '94, I'm doing the number in my head. If football started in '94, that number can't be right.
And we've missed a year in between also.
That's right.
Since
There you go.
2011 because of the divisions. So, or every third year, rather. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I thought it was worse than that. 38-22 is not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
That number is actually not as bad, as I was thinking it probably was overall. So if that was the actual number, then.
Where is that Kentucky-Georgia game at? Is that in Georgia?
Athens.
Yeah, it's in Georgia. And it's going to be on ESPN at 6 p.m.
Is that where game day is going to be this week?
I think that's where college game day is going, isn't it?
No, it's going to the Red River rivalry.
Oh,
but I do have a question for everybody here in the room. What's everybody's take on Billy Napier?
The man affectionately referred to as Sunbelt Billy, huh?
Yeah, that guy.
If he survives this year, I don't think he survives next.
Well,
no,
I've got a pretty good feeling he'll survive this year, but he'll get a vote of confidence for 2024. Anytime you get a vote of confidence, it's usually a bad sign.
If they lose another game, I don't think so. I don't think he survives the year.
They're not going to get mad at him for losing to Georgia, but if he's losing to Vanderbilt next Saturday, he's in real trouble.
Well, or if he's just getting run over. Like if it's all the close competitive games, it's like, okay, that's one thing. But if you're just getting absolutely stomped on, that's a big difference. Let's see. We've got, there was a bunch of them. Got to give some love. West Virginia, a quiet 4-1. I think we asked it earlier. Did Neil Brown just get himself off the hot seat?
Well, I mean, the schedule is on his side. I mean, next week they got that bye week, but then they got to go to Houston for the Dana Holgorsen reunion show, so to speak. That's going to be a good one.
They'll win that one.
That's going to be.
I think Dana's going to get fired before the season ends.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about, honestly, that what's happening with Dana, but that's another topic in a little bit. But Neil Brown, he's done such a magnificent job this season. I mean, in the media days when he was like telling them, hey, you're wrong to pick us last, and we're going to prove it to you. By golly, they sure have, because, I mean, this Saturday, they were a 14.5 underdog against the national defending runner-ups of college football, and they won a tight one in Fort Worth. That's pretty big.
Yeah. Try to remember that Colorado beat TCU, so let's slow up a little bit. I mean, it's a good win, but still.
I will say West Virginia, at least as relating to the title of the show, after talking about like what LSU gave up, West Virginia actually has a pretty decent defense, it seems, this year. Like they're holding teams to, 14, 17 points. Like they're not giving up a lot of points to these teams. So they're being consistent, at least. It's better than they have been.
Well, they're definitely overperforming this year, but keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, they've only allowed 19 points per game. I mean, that's pretty big right there.
But their best competition pretty much had their way with them.
True.
Penn
yes.
State just ran roughshod over them.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. I mean,
now in West Virginia's defense, Penn State could probably beat a lot of teams that badly. So, that's not exactly an indictment on West Virginia.
well, again, they're sitting at a quiet 4-1, but that's a huge improvement. I think that's a lot better than I think most of us up here at the beginning of the season would have said they'd be at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But what's the question on Sonny Dykes and TCU, though? What's everybody's take on TCU?
One-hit wonder. Their passing defense is horrendous.
They remind me of, I don't know, they could go the way of Baylor, like the way Baylor is now.
I kind of feel like they're the college football version of the 2017-2018 Jacksonville Jaguars, where like everybody just kind of threw the cart in before the horse after the Jaguars made it to the AFC title game. But then in 2018, everyone's like, oh my God, they're going to do it again. But then they fall flat on their face. I'm kind of feel like we're getting those vibes from the 2023 TCU football team.
I'd agree with that. I mean, TCU just got gutted by the draft.
Yeah, they lost. I mean, they lost a bunch of guys, and obviously.
And they lost OC Garrett Riley. So, I mean, that hurt him a lot.
And
TCU, Brownie College Football says, reminds me of Ed Orgeron. That's a good one right there. I forgot about that for a moment.
It's true. Actually, that is a good comparison.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah. I mean, Natty.
It took 2 years and Orgeron was out, after a title.
Well, I mean, he's like the career interim. I mean, he didn't do half bad when he was interim at USC, did he?
He won the games he should have won. He went on a run with Kiffin's team, but I mean, then he lost to UCLA and Notre Dame, the teams that probably would give him trouble, and he dropped both of those games. So that Kiffin team, that team was a good team. It really was. They went into the desert and got absolutely hammered in the infamous tarmac game, but there was a lot of NFL talent on that team. I mean, a lot of NFL talent on that team. So I don't know. He did a good job. I mean, Ed O is probably one of the better recruiters of all time, and definitely like a motivation guy. That defensive line guy, great defensive line coach. But I love him. I'm glad he got rich. I'm glad he got a national championship. I'm glad he got everything he did out of football. But I'm going to say he's even a really good coordinator. I don't have enough information on him to know if he would or would not have been a good coach. But I don't know. I don't have enough information really.
I will say the one thing that it just made sense for him to end up at LSU when he did, because I just missed the post games. Like, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
He just fit perfectly.
Yeah, he's born and bred LSU with that accent.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, that was pretty funny. I mean, to me, he kind of looked like a Cajun Fred Flintstone. That was pretty cool right there.
He was the perfect fit for LSU. Like, absolute perfect fit. Let's see at this real quickly too. Once again, Two Changs bringing out stats and giving those donations. We appreciate that a lot. 61-51 Oregon. Kenyon Barner, 325 yards, 5 TDs. USC's worst home loss. Most yards given up in rushing.
I think that was Kiffin, right? That was the game.
That was 2012.
2012.
Yep.
November
3rd.
That was a shootout.
That's your true shootout where literally both offenses, it wasn't the defenses were bad. It's just the offenses. Those offenses were so damn good that they just kept going back for scoring. And credit Oregon. They got the stops at the end of the game to pull ahead and win that game. That was a great game. I wish I hadn't drank so much beer because I was going to the bathroom too much and missed like 5 or 6 points.
So you looked away and it was like, who just scored?
They scored. So, yeah. I mean, those offenses were legitimately incredible. Again, lots of NFL guys.
I wish TCU a lot of luck, although it's not looking good for them. I mean, we'll find out what's up with them next Saturday against Iowa State in Ames, Iowa. So, I mean, we'll see where it goes from there.
The dreaded Cyclones.
Well,
speaking of dreaded teams there, Jackson,
ooh.
why you got to hurt our man Will Rogers at Mississippi State so much? Why are you so mean to him?
I'm not hurting them. Don't look at me.
What is going on with Mississippi State? I mean, they promoted they promoted the OC, wasn't it? To be
the DC.
Oh,
he was
DC. Apologize.
Mm-hmm.
To keep consistency.
Yeah, he was defensive coordinator from San Diego State. Then got hired by Mike Leach to be the DC for Mississippi State. Then Coach Leach passed away, went to go work for the Lord, and then Zach Arnett became the interim head coach, then became the full-time head coach.
And it was, obviously to keep consistency, to keep the team together a bit, but Will Rogers is being disgraced this year by that offense.
Well, they tried to reinvent the wheel. They went from, chucking the ball 55, 60 times a game to what, 15?
Isn't he throwing it only like 17 times a game compared to like 45 or 50 times?
Yeah.
It's like he should have gotten out of there.
And their defense doesn't do them any favors either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mississippi State is what? 1-3. Are they?
Yep, 2-3 in all college football.
It's not good days in Mississippi State right now. Down there, Starksville.
Man, it's just bad over in Starkville. But, next week they got Western Michigan, so that's going to be a little bit of a breather for them.
Hopefully.
Yeah, Western Michigan.
Hopefully. If they lose to Western Michigan, just call it a season. Just wrap it up.
But as for the Crimson Tide, Jalen Milroe had a magnificent game. 164 yards, 10 of 12 completed passes, and 69 yards on 11 carries rushing.
So y'all got Texas A&M next, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a scary
play.
place.
Wegman's going to be healthy or not?
What'd you say?
Do we know if Texas A&M quarterback Connor Wegman is he going to be healthy?
Oh, he's out. He's out.
Yeah, he's out. He's
You
out.
should just win. You should win. I mean, I know it's in Aggie land in College Station, but you should still win that game.
So what?
I'll be honest, Will. That game kind of looks like a toss-up to me. I mean, this looks like an either-or because A&M tends to bring their A game against the Alabama Crimson Tide. They've done that for the past 2 years. I mean, if they were able to bring their A game against Alabama and Tuscaloosa last season with a crappy quarterback, imagine what they can do with a pretty good backup in Johnson. I mean, I'm petrified thinking about this game. Voice College Football says Texas A&M has a top 3 defense in the SEC. Exactly.
It probably that probably puts them somewhere in the top 30 to 40 in college football. So
I was gonna say that's not exactly a bragging point. So they don't have. I thought they had Haynes King.
No, Haynes
No.
King at Georgia Tech. Which
It's
speaking of
Max
Georgia,
Johnson now.
Oh, Max Johnson.
Yep. Max Johnson.
The LSU transfer.
Max Cherry Johnson. Had to throw in a Jackie Brown reference.
Oh yeah, that's right. He went to check. That's right.
But Johnson, man, he is a tough gunslinger.
You know, I was being nice to Tim, but let's rip off the Band-Aid and just get it over with. USC is a winner, but Tim, please go into it. You've been all over this all weekend, so.
As Pete Carroll said, it's a great day to be a Trojan. No, listen. Okay, so let me run a scenario by you guys. USC kicks that field goal for some unknown reason. Our kicker can't kick a 39-yard field goal. USC goes up 17 points with 5 minutes left in the game. At that point, I'm thinking Deion's thinking, okay, we can still cover this thing. We can cover, run the ball, let's run this thing out. And really, the game's over. You know, shocking thing, I'm remembering more games now. There's one pattern that's really bothering me about USC. It's not the number of yards they gave up. It's not the fact they gave up 192 yards on the ground to a Colorado team that looks like they just found the running game in college football this week. But it's the fact that I remember another game, and Chris, you're out there, Serge, you'll remember this. The Cal game last year. That game was all but over. I was literally leaving the Coliseum, trying to get to the post-game show, trying to cheat the traffic, which I really never do until I started doing these shows for Mark. Thanks, Mark. But I was heading out to get home, and I hear one cheer from the Coliseum. I'm like, oh, I was okay, whatever. They scored. Good for them. They finally scored. And then by the time I got to my car in the parking lot, another cheer in the Coliseum. And I know it's not SC because they're not blinking lights, nothing exciting is going on, but just a cheer. You hear a cheer. I'm like, what is going on? And I get to my car, and they scored back-to-back touchdowns to bring it within like 7. They go for an onside kick. When the game was like over, it was like a 21-point game. USC's cruising. I'm out of there. This thing's over. And it literally came down to an onside kick. That's a game. You look at the Tulane game where there's 3 minutes left in the game, 3 and change. USC's up by 15 points. Literally, the only way they can lose, they give up a quick score, roll the ball to 2-yard line for no reason, take a sack in the end zone for a safety, or hand the ball off in the end zone for a safety, and then allow them to march right down the field and score a touchdown. And that's literally what they did in that game. I was giving Benny Wiley a bunch of props because he did. The OU guys said, hey, look, you know, this guy is a Pilates instructor. You like yoga. Your guys are all going to get smaller, etc. They did not. The guys they were from USC. They were on USC's team last year. Got huge. These guys were big. So I'm like, oh, they're full of crap. But another part of conditioning is finishing games. And it looks like these Trojans have an issue finishing games. And fourth quarter crumbles like they've been doing are not a good look. Because sure, you can get away with it when you're up 41-14, now 34-7, which was the scores in this game. And they scored 21 points, in the 3 of the last 4 drives. They scored 3 touchdowns. And they scored 27 points in the last 5 drives of this game. So that is just a complete collapse. People have been talking about, oh, well, they took their foot off the gas. That's possibly it. But you can always put your foot back on the gas. You know what I mean? You can always change that. It just looked like just a collapse. And it's not a one-off thing. This isn't the first time this has happened. And now back-to-back weeks, USC's defense has struggled with inferior offenses. Big concern being two largely believed to be two very porous and weak offensive lines. And USC has given up significant yards to both of them and significant points. So,
Wait.
Yeah.
You said back-to-back?
Yeah, Arizona State and Colorado.
Okay, so you're just kind of discounting the other three?
The other three, what, game?
I mean, didn't you give up 28 to San Jose State?
Yeah, no. See, the reason why I'm not counting that game, Mike, as I will say, is because they were absolutely playing just backups in that game. But these last two games, they have been playing their starters.
Okay.
Yeah, how long does your quarterback have to play, Tim?
We could talk about that, but in those earlier games, also USC could have put up like 100 points on those first three teams as well, Mike. We were pulling Caleb out in the first half, third quarter kind of things regularly on the regular. We could have gone full scorch on them. My point is that it's a late game collapses in the last 2 weeks, and you play a good team, and let's say you have a decent lead, that 10-point lead could turn into a 7-point deficit really fast if you start playing sloppy, like's been happening at USC. I'm not worried about it. 'Cause here's what I'll tell you. USC's offense is going to keep them in every game this year. And if you don't think otherwise, then you're just not paying attention.
Well, is
it going to be a track meet? Is it going to be uncomfortable? Yeah, there's going to be some really uncomfortable games. And USC most likely is going to drop a game along. There's no way they go through teams like Notre Dame, Utah, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA and get through that without losing a game. They're going to lose. And was you Serge? No, who was it? I was talking with someone. Maybe it was Ferris. USC gave up I don't know how many first downs, a ridiculous amount of first downs to this team, and they had 90 snaps at altitude at Colorado. I'm not going to give them that excuse for not getting off the field, because if you don't give them first downs, you're not going to look at 90 snaps. It's going to be a hell of a lot less than that. But they played 90 snaps, and that's why you saw a complete collapse at the end of that game. And there's no excuse for it, because, again, you get them off the field, you get some stops, you don't have to face 90 snaps. So they better figure it out. I think this stuff is correctable. They got to figure out one thing. I really have a problem with Grinch's defenses is he really puts his corners out on an island, and as well as the safeties. There's a lot of responsibility for the safeties. There's a lot of multi-gap responsibilities on run fits for their linebackers, it looks like, and it's not happening, and they're getting burned. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but at the end of the half, USC's cruising, and all of a sudden you see Shooter Sanders, who's not exactly Barry Sanders, just run straight down the field for about 26 yards, and no one came within 5-10 yards of him.
5 yards, yeah.
So, I mean, that's problematic in a scheme that he could do that, because he's mobile, he's athletic, but he's not a running quarterback. And we're going to be facing running quarterbacks coming up. Things like that, things like very poor secondary play. I thought that might be not a strength, but definitely not something that would hurt us. Cornerback play has been really bad. We've had one guy in particular, I want to call him by my name, just a couple of hitch routes. And not only is the guy getting the hitch route, that's fine, give him 7 yards, give him first down. But then they're spinning around and taking it, rushing for 60 yards after the play. I mean, it's inexcusable stuff, just very basic stuff that USC's not taking care of. If they don't fix it, they're losing games. It's that simple.
Well, how do you address the fact that they miss 20 tackles a game?
Well, I'll address the fact that they don't miss 20 tackles a game, but they did miss 18 tackles the last game, and they missed 14, I think, the week before.
Well, it might have been slight exaggeration, but they do miss a lot more tackles than they need to.
Yeah, that's fundamentals. That's the good part of this, though, Mike. The good part is that stuff is correctable. Scheme issues, that's really not that correctable at this point. I mean, I'd like to see a lot less zero, cover zero. I'd like to see some guys. There's a reason why they're called safeties, right? These are college corners. Who here? Raise your hand. Even the best teams out there. Whenever you've seen like shutdown corners, on a team, very rare you have two bookend shutdown corners. This isn't the NFL. This is college. You need safeties in college. Guys are going to get burned. There's guys out there that in coverage even they just cannot keep up with receivers. That's why we have safeties. It doesn't appear that in this scheme that there's a lot of time where these corners are getting somebody over the top. Like cover two, where you're gonna have a safety there to help you if you do get burned. You got some backup, and that's not happening. And their secondary play has been poor. I will tell you, the front seven's solid as hell. There's some issues at linebacker with some run fits, but as far as the pressure on the quarterback and the guys just rushing for and getting pressure on the quarterback, that's happening. The problem is there's so many little fundamental breakdowns on the back end that it's just not a good defense right now. And like I said, there's going to be some losses unless they figure it out.
Yeah, I was listening to you guys yesterday, and you guys were talking about your defensive breakdowns and whatnot, and how there's a couple of guys that were projected to be out there defensively that aren't. We have one on offense. Do you know why the projected guys that you thought were going to be out there aren't out there? Have you heard anything?
Do you have any particular examples? I mean, there's been a lot of. See, here's one thing I like. There's a lot of competition, right? And the reason for competition is to have real competition. You need quality depth, and for a first time in a long time, in that front seven, that we have a lot of quality depth. Again, especially on the D line, they're like 2-3 deep. Linebackers, we can go 5.
I think it was your secondary guys or corners or whatnot that you guys were talking about. There was a couple of guys that haven't been playing that should be playing, and other guys are.
There's a guy, Christian Roland Wallace, that I thought that would be a starter. He came over from Arizona, and he's really good. He hasn't been playing. And then the name escapes me. Hold on, let me cheat. And then Sierra Wright, number 22. Some people penciled them both in as starters to begin the season. I'm not there in practice. Practices are closed, so you don't get a lot of media information at all from that. But this has got to be a practicing. But, these guys are getting beaten games, right, Spaz? So, I mean, why aren't they, that's the thing about competition. You should have a guy behind you as good or almost as good as you, right? That if you're going to miss tackles, if you're not going to wrap up, if you're not going to break down and drive your tackle and take a guy to the ground, hey, bud, that's cool. Have a seat. We'll get someone in there that's willing to throw his body out there, wrap up, and make a proper tackle. I don't see that. Really I don't see it happening, and I hope that again, I think it's correctable. But if it's not correctable, then I would definitely downplay my expectation.
My thing is if you've got that depth and whatnot, why isn't the coaching saying okay and putting different guys in there or whatnot and trying to adjust those problems? I can see if you guys didn't have the depth, but like you're saying, you got the depth.
My simple answer is I don't see practice. So again, I don't know if there's busted coverages in practice. I don't know if during the games there have been some busted coverages, where those guys that I listed have, because that's the thing. Those first 3 games people going to, they were rotating dudes. Guys got reps against real targets, against, real bullets. And I think they took those as an evaluation process. And I think the guys that we're talking about, I don't know. I don't have any real information on this. I'm just making assumptions. And, for the fact that Sierra's not playing, the fact that who's I'm blanking on his name too. Other corner. Jacoby Covington from Washington. He's a Washington transfer. This guy is built. Everyone's talking about him. He was a transfer from Washington. Everyone's really excited about him playing. He's getting limited time. But I mean, it's kind of like that quarterback thing. I almost feel like now with the cornerback issue is if you don't have 2, you don't have 1. You know what I mean? It's like there's no guy like, hey, look, this guy is our guy because they keep rotating him, and quite frankly, none of them are doing the job. But I said at the beginning, the scheme puts a lot of pressure on those corners. They do a lot of cover 0 and crazy stuff where there's nobody behind that safety. They bring the safeties up into the box. And that means, if you get burned, you get torched, the guy's going for a lot of yards. So it's been rough. But here's what I'll say again. Everyone's, licking their chops and getting excited. We are going to drop 40 to 60 on you. So if you're a team out there that can't score points, this defense can stop. I mean, it's not the defense can't make stops. Matter of fact, before they field goal I talked about that would have changed the complexion of this game. USC kicks that field goal, goes up 17 with 5 minutes left. The game's over. Right before that, USC stopped them on downs with a big sack from Dejon Benton, that deep line I'm talking about. Beautiful. The guy's lucky he held onto the ball. So USC can play. With quarterbacks like Nix, Hartman, and Penix, that worries me, right? But I just watched, remember Penix is coming to the Coliseum. They only put up 31 points against a bad Arizona team, and he threw zero touchdowns. Pac-12 guys,
Yeah.
How worried are you about Arizona's defense on a scale of 1 to 10? Yet they roll in there and they have trouble with it. And the AP poll hasn't dropped them. I don't know if Mark dropped them at all. USC has a game where literally was never in contention of losing it, but because of perception, all the eyes are on USC. Penix went into Tucson and didn't throw a touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like one of the worst defenses.
That game was ugly.
Yeah. So
we can get into that. But yeah, exactly. Gigs are good here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And I have to touch upon one that came in a little earlier and apologize for that too, but thank you for that, Gigs for Squid. Chang is throwing more money. I like it. He's constantly doing it. Don't want to forget about it. That's why I want to make sure we pull this up for him. Ducks UW was a shootout. Bill got hurt. This is the last year's game. Oregon had top recruiting class and great portal class in the Pac-12. I think they are better than UW now, reloaded more. We're going to find out in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to talk about it now because that's still 2 weeks away after the bye week. But last year, that was a shootout.
that's in that Autzen. Is that Autzen or is that in Seattle?
That's in Seattle.
It's in Seattle.
Yeah.
College game day, baby.
Well,
Mark, you hear that? Mark, just so you know, that
yeah,
one's in
most likely. Most likely. I mean, thank you to Changs and Gigs for Twit again.
We got to change 2 Changs to 2 Cha-Chings. That's what he's got to be from now on because he's just throwing those dimes out for everybody. So, Mark, thanks you very much.
Oh, yeah. And
people keep saying that the Irish are irrelevant, but, we've been in college game day 2 weeks in a row. So, you really think we're irrelevant?
They're saying you're irrelevant?
Well, yeah. Well, people say Notre Dame's irrelevant. I mean, people say it all the time.
Haters, Will. You just got to laugh at the haters.
And there was Mark's pet peeves from earlier. The AP poll, the game day estimates, young fans, and the term pet peeves. And probably others.
Tony, it won't be
there are
USC
many
Notre
others.
Dame because they've covered Notre Dame 2 weeks in a row. So there's your answer for that.
If Notre Dame had been undefeated, it would have been hard to and if USC is undefeated going into that game, it would have been a hard pull. What else is going on that week? Is there another big game?
Oregon, Washington.
Oh, that's in 2 weeks too. Oh, you're right. No,
Yeah.
that still would have got it. That probably still would have gotten it. Yeah, but that would have been tough. That would have been a tough pull. I don't know because I think the eyeballs for the USC Notre Dame game would be a lot bigger, even though probably the Washington. I don't know. Actually, both games would have been really good. I do think the eyeballs will be more on. You have to admit, more people are going to watch Notre Dame USC than Utah, than Washington Oregon. I mean,
They would have, yeah, if they were both undefeated. Yeah.
I think they are different time. The Oregon Washington one still doesn't have a time, but I'm going to guess they're going to schedule it earlier. So at least it'll be like different time slots probably, but we'll see.
I'm sure one will be 12:30, the other one will be 4:30.
You're not Daryl, I'm sure.
Who?
Kentucky versus Missouri.
I'm so sorry. Honestly, those games at SEC, I swear to you, Daryl, I know you think I'm a hater. I got to watch about 10 minutes of that, if at all. What? I mean, I'm not being mean, but seriously.
Is Missouri really that good?
They only have one loss, don't they?
No, they're undefeated.
No, they're
Who
unbeaten.
they played.
They're unbeaten. They are 5-0.
Oh, that's right. They are. They are ranked number 21. Well, we got to get into the AP. The new AP dropped, but real quickly, let's touch upon because there was one of the other top-ranked teams. Texas had to abuse those 4 Jayhawks in Lance Leopold this weekend in Austin.
Yeah, that was a big victory for the Texas Longhorns. But this is
That
also the largest victory versus a ranked team since 2009 against Oklahoma State when the Longhorns beat them 41-14 on Halloween night.
Yeah, but that game was over in the pregame warm-ups when
Jalen
Daniels couldn't suit up. That game was over. I mean, Kansas made it a game for a half, but that was it.
Yeah, I was sad to hear when Jalen Daniels couldn't play. I was just like, oh man.
Yeah, I was like, this game's done.
Yeah. I hope he's back for next Saturday at home versus Central Florida. They sure could use him.
Anyone know what was wrong? Yes. Was it just a precautionary thing?
His back. He tweaked his back a couple games back, and it stiffened up on him in pregame warm-ups, and he just couldn't go.
Yeah, it's kind of
a late scratch.
It's kind of hard to be a quarterback and run around and throw the ball when your back is hurt. But it's kind of difficult.
Plus, he's a legit.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so yeah.
Well, Quinn Ewers had a fantastic game. 325 passing yards, 25 of 35 completed passes, and a touchdown. So that was magnificent. And he had 40 rushing yards, 7 carries, and two rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty big right there. I mean, 365 total yards, 3 total touchdowns. Way to go, Mr. Ewers.
And Kentucky's not some slouch team. They've been getting better. So that's still a good win for Texas, no matter what.
Well, I mean, I think that if somebody wanted to make an argument that Texas, despite Jalen Daniels not playing, if they wanted to make an argument that Texas was the number 1 team in the nation, I couldn't fight them too much.
Well, speaking of rankings, the new AP Top 25 dropped, and I'm sure you guys have gotten to see it. Yes, Mark, we're talking about the AP. Please go check out Mark's the Top 25 That Makes Sense video, please. But, Mark, we're going to talk about the AP right now.
Is that the one that has Missouri ahead of USC?
Yes, Mark's, I believe, does have Missouri ahead of USC.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. I watched it earlier, Mark. Relax. I am being a little risky right now. Maybe Mark left the stream already, so he won't hear this. I'm sure you guys have looked it over, at least briefly, the new AP. Are there any surprises? Because I have to agree with you, Mike. If Texas was to be ranked number 1, or even Michigan at this point, I would have no problems, to be honest. Georgia has not been doing it for me.
Yeah, I mean, call me a homer if you want. I think Michigan should be 1, Texas should be 2, and Georgia should be 3.
It's weird that Georgia got 35 first place votes. 35 first place votes for Georgia seems a bit heavy-handed. I can see them getting some.
It's dropped, though, at least.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, though. Georgia kind of looks like 2014 Florida State to me. Especially in the past 2 conference games against South Carolina and Auburn. I mean, I feel like that's a running theme for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Well,
they've been playing with fire, exactly like that 2014 FSU team. They've been playing with fire for some reason.
Well, I will throw out this stat. There's only been 3 teams ever that has won 5-0, scored more than 30 points, and allowed 7 or fewer. 2023 Michigan, and I believe the other 2 were 78 or 79 Alabama and 93 Florida State. Both those other teams went on to win the national championship. So Michigan is kind of in rare air right now. Have they played anybody great? No. UNLV is 4-1. Rutgers is 4-1. And none of these games have been close. So for the people saying, they haven't, played this great team yet, they're still, in my opinion, the number 1 team.
Is there anybody as good as Michigan even in the Big Ten right now? Not that I've seen.
The Big Ten is. I mean, Penn State and Ohio State are still up there. I mean, do I think
Trash.
Oh, stop it!
Mike, the only thing I have to say, Mike, the only thing I do have to say is that really, who would you say is the best offense you've played this year?
No, Mayhe says if Mark has Georgia 7 or lower, LSU outside of the top 25, then I'll agree with his rankings. I don't care where anyone else is. Well, he's got Georgia number 8, so if anything, that makes perfect sense right there.
I would honestly probably say maybe UNLV. This is a UNLV that beat Georgia Tech in Atlanta pretty comfortably last week. So,
yeah. I mean, they beat Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that's still a Power 5 team on the road.
We're not going the direction I want to go with this. I would take an answer of UNLV, but honestly, comparing today's schedules to like schedules from 20, 30, 40 years ago, just with the warm-up games that people get, it's not even comparable. I mean, like you look at some of those old schedules that Michigan used to play, they weren't playing, these 3 teams before they got rolling on
and I'm sorry, it wasn't UNLV that it was Bowling Green. It was the other one of the teams that we beat. They're the ones that beat Georgia Tech in Atlanta by a pretty comfortable margin. So, while these might not be marquee teams we're beating, these are not bad teams. Now, ECU is pretty bad, but the others, Rutgers is 4-1. And by the way, the other 4 teams they beat, you can even ask Keep Shocking. They beat them pretty sound. So let's not pretend that Michigan has just rolled over absolute duds. Have they beaten an Alabama or a Notre Dame? No, but they're winning all their games, and these aren't scrubs, and they're winning them very, very comfortably.
But I will say that teams like Oregon, when they play like not a scrub, but because Colorado's not a scrub team, by the way. The teams you just named, I would love to see Colorado play them because I'm sure they give Bowling Green a hell of a game. And you saw what Oregon did to them and what Oregon did on both offense and defense. I know you guys have a good offense, but you'd have to be yourself. Some of the competition you played, you've had some kind of clunkers on offense. Would you agree, or is that unfair?
We're not going to put up 70 points. That's not hardball. We're probably going to average right around the mid-30s per game this year. That's just what we do. Especially with the new clock rules, this is going to be strictly ball control.
Yeah,
we're going to be 40-20 time of possession games. This is not going to be 55-7. It's going to be more like 38-7, 38-10. This is just
that's still fine. That's still a dominating win when you control the clock and control the ball like Michigan had. That's why I said I have no problem with like those 3 being kind of flipped around at this point. And I think this is kind of one of the things about the rankings that we wanted to get into, because as Mark had told people, yes, he had Georgia number 8, LSU not ranked. And then right after that, this is the hot topic because this is the one that caught me. Louisville and Missouri being ranked and Maryland being left out shows why these polls don't deserve any respect or consideration.
Amen.
Sean Garner, thank you. How is a 5-0 Maryland not ranked, but a 3-2 LSU is still ranked?
And I don't get it. Maryland is still and I don't think this is even up for discussion, the best division in college football by a mile.
You got to help me out. What are Maryland's wins? Can someone help me out with their wins?
They won against Charlotte. They won against SMU. They won against Virginia. They won against Michigan State and Indiana. Those are all their wins so far this season.
Okay. Is anyone impressed with any of those wins?
None of those games are less than 3 scores. I think their closest one was like Charlotte, and I think that was 18 points. What
do we think? Do we all think that LSU goes 5-0 against that murderer's row?
Yeah.
Do we?
No.
I
don't
you
know.
think LSU loses one of those games?
I think SMU could probably give LSU a fit.
Okay, so I'm not. Believe me, we all know here. Full disclosure. You know what I think about Brian Kelly, and quite frankly, I like LSU, but I don't like their fans. So if you think I'm being biased towards LSU on this one, LSU wins all those games. They're 5-0. The reason why LSU has 2 losses is, can someone remind me who are the losses to? Ole Miss and
Florida State.
I get Florida State.
Do you think that Maryland's winning either of those games?
I could see them being Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I could definitely see them being Ole Miss.
I mean, okay, we might see it.
I made a mistake.
I mean, I think it's like a 50-50 game.
So what
I
I'm saying is,
forgot.
I
thought
wouldn't
they had
dismiss
it
it like that as easy as you guys just did. Losses are losses, and they should be counted, right? But who you play is also just as important. Mark will be the first one to tell you that. You lose a game to like a team like Texas, or you lose a game to a team like Florida State. It doesn't mean that you're a bad team. You know, if you lose a game to Ohio State, it doesn't mean you guys aren't a top 25 team. It means you played a really good team. You played them close and you lost.
But
It doesn't mean you should count them out.
How you win is, in my opinion, how you win is just a matter of just as important as who you. Like I said, that's why Georgia beat Auburn by 1 score. Georgia in Athens beat South Carolina, which has one of the worst offensive lines in college football right now, by 10 points. These are not good wins. These aren't something that if you're a Georgia fan, you look at it and say, yeah, I'm proud of these wins. This is why I downgrade them, in my opinion.
I would just say if we put Georgia against some of the schedules we've talked about in the past 10 minutes, I think they handle all those very, very easily.
Well, Sean, if it makes you feel better about Louisville, Missouri, and Maryland being disrespected by the polls, Mark on the top 25 that actually makes sense, he's making sure that they're getting their well-deserved respect because he's got Maryland at 20, Louisville at 11, and Missouri at 16.
Michigan at 18. What is that?
Oh no!
What was that going? That's for real. I was just doing some Friday the 13th. Yeah, somebody has their speakers are up loud.
It's me. Hang on.
So again, I think it's just too early. Stats suck, right? When you're trying to do statistical analysis against this team has like their points per drive is this, or this team has their quarterback ranking is this, so he's got to be winning the national championship. We have to look this early in the season. The sample size is not good enough for us to start saying this team's better than this team. This quarterback's better than this quarterback. You really need a bigger sample size, and we need. Thank God it's happening. We all know the beginning of the season is kind of a warm up. Once we get into week 6, 7, 8, these teams will have faced some really good competition, and the elite teams are going to separate themselves. So to argue about who's not in the top 25 in week 5, I guess we could do that. But again, it's almost as meaningless as having a preseason poll because none of these polls. You want to have fun? Go back and look at any of the AP polls and look back at week 5 and then look at how they end up in any one of those years. It's never like these teams stay on top. There's always movement. So we'll know a lot more in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just like all these rankings first week in November is just for talking points. Doesn't really matter.
Like Tim said earlier in the season, rankings don't really matter until you start getting into the CFP rankings in mid-November, second week of November. Then you could start looking at where rankings really matter.
And be quiet, Uncle Rico. Stop reminding us.
And the point is, yes, it's numerically halfway through the season, but the conference play has just started. Yeah. And the way people schedule cupcakes is why I'm telling you, Uncle Rico, that what we have is just not really a sample of what the season's going to be like.
Yeah, but also if we didn't have rankings this early, how will we know where College Game Day is going?
That's a good point.
That is true. That is kind of true. I'll give it. Maybe that's what the ranking has been for the whole time. It's just for where Game Day is going to go.
Oh my God.
So again, out of these, I mean, I don't know. It's tough, yeah, because I said a lot of these teams we can say, and I won't be the homer here for myself. Yeah, not all of us have played the greatest of competition,
right?
So we're going to start getting into the meat of the schedule. But Spaz,
Yeah.
this isn't fifth grade. Using your hand.
That's funny.
Is it time for my storytelling?
Go for
You're
it.
telling a story tonight.
Yeah.
You didn't clear this with any of us beforehand. Okay,
It's
go for
the storybook comparison. So this week, Oregon went down to the nerdy kids down in the Palo Alto Valley and had not a very good start to the first quarter, as Ben and myself and the boys were talking about in our chat during the first quarter of the game. We were like, here we go with the storybook ending in Palo Alto again. But obviously Oregon made some changes, and defensively and offensively, Will Stein made some adjustments on the offensive side of the ball, and it was pretty much over from that point forward. Stanford started out with a 6-0 lead after one quarter when they had 13 minutes and 22 seconds of the clock, and Oregon had 1 minute and 28 seconds. So it didn't last very long, because by the end of the game it was 42-0 from that point on. So at that point, I will say that Oregon has really shocked a lot of us, even myself and Ben, and the boys have really come to be impressed with this defense the last 3 weeks. And I believe they're now. Did you get the check on that, Ben? Are we top 10 now?
I'd have to recheck. Yeah, we should be number 10 now.
You're
They're
8,
number 8.
You're 8.
Oh,
It's
okay.
Washington is 7, Oregon's 8, and USC's 9.
But
No.
you're 15.
We're talking
In
total
defense?
total defense. We're like
We're
number 10.
talking total defense in the
Oh,
NCAA.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
my
like
bad.
number 10 now.
But you are number 15 in the top 25 that actually matters.
It's true.
The thing
That
is,
true.
total defense.
It's true.
Are you see?
Total defense is not going to tell you how good your defense is.
No, it's not. But we've always said openly, hey, even last year, if we were like 30 or 40 ranked in that range, it would have been a hell of a different season. So it's going to change. It's going to drop. We're not going to stay at that number. If we do, I'd be like, what the hell? But we're going to drop. But starting that high is at least a positive note
I'll
compared
tell you
to last
what.
year.
Well, no, I mean, you guys with your offense, you guys are currently, and I mean, granted, it's only through like 4 weeks. This doesn't have the 5th week, but points per drive, you guys were at 17. So that's good. I mean, you guys, you're showing per drive is basically the idea, because obviously we know that if you score faster, there's gonna be more drives, right? So usually a total yardage doesn't matter. Like if you're a USC, you score every like 2 minutes. The other teams get the ball a bunch, and so they're going to get a lot of empty yards. It's what do they score? How often are they scoring on your defense? You play at Michigan, right, where they slow down the game. That's where it gets important, right? Because you're going to have less chances to score. But how often are you scoring, and how much are you keeping other teams from scoring? I think it's a great metric. And you guys are looking really good at 17 with your offense. That's going to lead to a lot of wins. Granted, who have we played? That conversation goes into it as well.
It's going to change. It's going to change when we start playing
USC and Washington. Don't worry about Utah this year. We can scratch them off if Rising's not playing.
For Utah.
But
it's going to change. We're going to start playing some of the offensive guys, but to start this compared to last year's defense I'm pleased at least on the adjustment that we've seen them make and stuff. So I'm like, okay.
And we're also 5-0 for the
Satisfying.
first time since 2013.
Well, I got a question for you, Pac guys. So I saw that Mark just put up the defensive stats. What was it? Oregon is 15 and Oregon State is 22. Now, is Washington State, when they played Oregon State, is that the rule or the exception for Washington State this year? Because they took it to Oregon State, and I did not see it coming.
Yeah. Pullman is.
Sorry, go ahead, Spaz. Sorry.
Pullman is, as Tim knows, Pullman is a tricky place, especially depending on the time of year that you have to play over there. It can be a dangerous place. It's kind of like playing Pac-12 after dark in the desert. You just never know.
Yeah, you can lose a national championship up there. Yeah, I do know.
Yeah.
Pullman, Corvallis, and the desert are like curses in the Pac-12 for any team. I mean,
Yeah,
Well, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they run the ball 17 times in a row down your throat, Corvallis can definitely be a detriment to your season.
They did it to us 19 times, I think, Spaz. 19. Give him credit for 2 extra runs. I think it was 19 times.
Yeah, but I mean, Ward is a hell of a quarterback, and people just need to start knowing who he is. When Washington State lights up the scoreboard like they do, they have the ability. They just do. That guy, he has one of the quickest and sweetest releases I've seen in college football this year. Guy is fluid. He's quick. He can throw from multiple platforms. The guy has all the tools. Last year, he was trying to make that transition from Incarnate Word, to Division I football. I think he had his old coach that was an OC. They brought in, they revamped the offense, and he's been lights out since then. So the Cougs are no joke. And going into Martin Stadium, like you said, Spaz, that's not an easy place to win.
I'd hate to be on the bad side of Cam Ward, especially any defense that goes against him. I mean,
they can score so quick. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, his stats are up there with Michael Pennett's, man. That's big.
Well, our game at Autzen in 3 weeks with Washington State was just announced as a complete sellout this morning, and that's 3 weeks out.
That's got to be what, 30,000 people? I'm sorry, I had to do it. I'm sorry. I had to go there, but yeah.
I'm just glad it's at Autzen.
We're almost to 60,000.
Oh, it's at Autzen? I thought you were talking about Martin Stadium. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, it's at Autzen.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
if it was in Pullman this year, I'd be really nervous. But luckily, it's at Autzen. So
Washington State's in big trouble. Unfortunately,
but what's Husky Stadium hold? 30,000. Tim's there.
No.
They're like 60, 70.
Yeah, they expanded years, like a decade ago.
Yeah. They're. It's usually USC and Washington for the highest announced attendance in the Pac-12.
Man, I would be excited for that Washington State UCLA game this week, but it's on Pac-12 Network.
Well, one thing's for sure: the Rose Bowl isn't that much of a home field advantage for UCLA.
See, I was just going to say, Tim said announced crowds. That's because UCLA and Stanford don't announce the actual attendance numbers because they're so abysmal.
Man, what is this? What is Mark smoking over here?
I think the Rose Bowl used to hold 108,000, but if they add a couple more tarts, I think they're down to about 25,000.
half of those seem to be empty.
The actual number, we'd appreciate it.
Well, why is that, Tim? Is it just because there's so much other stuff to do in LA, or what?
No, they're just Bruins.
I mean, but do you? I don't even see that many. I don't see sellout games at SC anymore. Neither even playing there. But obviously more than UCLA. But
without going into the whole thing, imagine if in Autzen you had 2 NFL teams, one that won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, right? Imagine if you have the Dodgers who are constantly in the playoffs and selling out their Dodger Stadium 51,000 every single game. There's just a lot of competition for good sports fans. You know what I mean? It's just really what it is. It's not that like we're better, or our city's better than your city, or whatever the heck it is. Yes, there are millions of people here, but guess what, you guys? Well, that's not true. I guess you're right. It gets more concentrated in different regions, but in Southern California, sports are not the professional sports and college sports
are the
most exciting thing that people think. It is for me. And then, by the way, just because I'm joking around about the attendance at UCLA, the UCLA fans are just as rabid as your rabid fans. It's just there's not as many of them. You know what I mean? It's just that simple fact. So,
well, it's not just college. I remember when you could get a Chargers ticket for a free Whopper if you get a Whopper and fry at a San Diego Burger King.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's because they're playing Jack Murphy. It was an armpit of a stadium, and then they that's why they moved, because the city of San Diego just would not support that team. And so, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And I will say to you, listen, I've got family in the Midwest. I know that, like, you go into a bar and talk to a girl about Spartans or Wolverine football, and they may not know who the starting left guard is, but they'll tell you who the quarterback and the running back are. Try doing that in LA. Walk up to a bar and ask it, "Hey, do you know the quarterback for UCLA?" And they'll be looking like, "Can you go away, please?" I mean, the conversation will be so short, it'll be over, because they've got no clue and they don't really care. It's just, different strokes, different folks. I don't know what to say.
Go down to Southeast.
I apologize to have to cut this off, because actually we missed one earlier, so I wanted to pull this up because Two Changs came in twice, coming in hot with another donation for Pac-12 title game. Will be two teams from the north. It just could be the Beavers and Wazoo. Wouldn't that be irony for the Pac-12?
No.
If the Beavers and Wazoo were in the title game,
Yeah,
that would just be absolute
Please
irony.
don't.
the Nobody Wants Us Bowl, according to Lee Corso.
It would be just be absolute irony. But then Two Changs also came back in earlier. Apologize, we missed this one. Kind of got distracted. Texas State has a new coach, brought in 60-plus transfers, and are 4-1. Yeah, sucked for a decade. Story D2 program. Sinbad played there also. 6'7" quarterback from LSU and UA. That's right. Texas State did that whole flip the roster deal down there too, and yeah, they've been doing pretty good. I heard.
Wait. Did Sinbad really play there, or is that a Necessary Roughness reference?
Who knows?
I don't know, but you guys are giving your age, because half the audience goes, "Who's Sinbad?" So keep going.
Well, you remember the movie?
That's true. There are some people
You guys remember the movie Necessary Roughness? He was in that with Scott
Yeah.
Bakula.
You're showing your age there, Mike.
Again, the Scott Bakula reference, you're still losing about half the audience, but keep going. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I thought everybody knew that movie. That's a hilarious movie.
So speaking of a team that Texas State beat, which is Baylor, what was everybody's take on the biggest comeback in school history for Baylor football against Central Florida?
It pissed me off because I want
yeah.
Peter Landers as my defensive coordinator. So I was hoping that that Central Florida takes care of business and gets him fired, and so he can become a defensive coordinator.
Well, I looked at this stat, and as of before yesterday, during yesterday, before Baylor Central Florida, going into Saturday, 892 straight losses when trailing by 25 plus points through three quarters. The last time somebody made a comeback in that time frame was UCLA in 2017 against Texas A&M.
Yeah, that game against the Aggies.
So, does this game kind of help Dave Aranda cool his seat a little bit?
Someone help me out. How good is Central Florida?
Well,
they're not
Central
bad.
Florida, they're just kind of they still haven't won a game in the Big 12 so far this year.
I think Dave Aranda's have to win games that they're not supposed to win and be competitive in the Big 12, because the Big 12 probably, right? We all agree, is probably, although we always hear that they're the most competitive conference, which I'm even questioning that now at this point.
East. It's going to be the Big East, what the Big East was.
It's just there's not So, I mean, I think that for him to keep his job, he has to have to do some upsets, because they're going to be underdogs. He's got to win some big games to make those alumni happy.
Well,
That's what he do.
Well, next Saturday, Baylor, maybe they can keep their momentum going next Saturday against Texas Tech. So, who knows?
Well,
I mean, the only one.
Texas
like
will hurt since they lost their quarterback too.
Yeah.
UCF's in the AP poll is one of the others mentioned, or is he in Mark's poll as one of the others mentioned?
It's not in Mark's poll. Let me double.
Oh, they're
check.
in neither poll. They're in neither poll.
Yeah, I don't think they're a top 30 team.
They're not in here.
No.
I'm beginning to wonder if this begins a hot seat for Malzahn.
Nah, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think changing conferences, they have to get. I think they're going to have to give them a second year to having the change of conference. To elevate the program.
That's for sure. I mean, the only one of the 4 new kids that won a conference game was BYU, and that was in their battle against Cincinnati. I mean, that was Cincinnati was just sloppy on Friday night.
Well, is there any other games that are notable of this weekend? So obviously, there's a lot of games, so we can't cover them all. But anything that was noticeable?
Clemson, Syracuse. What did everybody think of Clemson, Syracuse from Saturday?
Clemson got off the schneid.
That's true.
I was watching
But-
something else.
But let's not forget, we've seen Syracuse in the past years under Dino Babers collapse after they play Clemson, win or lose. Now, after they upset Clemson 2017, they went 0-5. In the first year of Dino Babers, they went 0-3 after they played Clemson. 2018 was a mere exception because they had a great year that year. They went 6-2 after their matchup against Clemson. That was Trevor Lawrence's first game, I believe.
Yeah,
He had a great game.
We beat them pretty good that year.
Yeah. In 2019, they went 4-5 after they played Clemson. 2020, 0-5 after Clemson. 2021, 2-3 after Clemson. And last year, the only win they had was against Boston College after that game. So I pulled up a little something for you guys about the Syracuse schedule. Do
Nice, yeah.
any of you guys see a collapse heading New York's way for Syracuse? Or not?
I see it here, and I'm going to pull it up quickly. I don't think I meant to click this, so I apologize. But Sean Garner,
That's okay.
yes, thank you for the contribution. Didn't Baylor win the Big 12 and the Sugar Bowl the eternity of 2 years ago?
Yes, they did.
It was an eternity ago.
That's
they
that's
were.
this is attempted sarcasm, but again, since then, Sean, what have they done?
Yeah.
They were terrible. They're like a losing record last year, and they have a losing record this year. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what the thing is, actually, because I know you're using sarcasm with the eternity, but you know what? 2 years in college football can be an eternity. What was USC looking like 2 years ago?
Oh, they were a disaster in 2021.
Right. And I'm not saying Alabama is anything, but look at who we're looking at as the best teams in football 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, a
Well-
lot can change in 2 years in college football.
Well, we just noted earlier, we were talking about Ed Orgeron. He won a title 2 years later.
In
he was
19,
fired.
right? Yeah.
And 2 years later, he was out.
Gene Chizik won a natty 2010. Then they go 8-5, 3-9. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Now, Baylor is different than LSU and Auburn and stuff like that in the sense of their expectation, but exactly. Things happen if a team's like the university's like, this is not good enough. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean, though, too. I wanted to make sure we got that in there, though. I didn't want to miss this.
M Go Blue 07 said Oklahoma State completely collapsed since 2021. Yeah, well, we'll learn a little more about Oklahoma State next Friday. So we see the Syracuse schedule, and do we see a collapse happening again for Syracuse or no?
I don't know. They got a lot of low cards in that deck after the bye week.
Yeah, I was going to say North Carolina. Okay, Florida State. Okay, yeah, those are going to be a little tricky. But then Virginia Tech, Boston College, maybe. But then Pitt, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest does not look really good at all.
Maybe USC should join the ACC. How do schools get these schedules? My God.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Stanford and Cal did.
Yeah, they might fit in. Holy wow.
Well, I noticed that Syracuse doesn't have a single road game in October, so that may hurt them a little bit.
Those all look like manageable wins.
Yeah.
After the bye week, definitely.
Right. Yeah, I'm not including North Carolina or Florida State.
if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said the Pitt game would have been lost, but Pitt has been kind of disappointing this year.
Yeah. But it is going to be pretty fun to see that at Yankee Stadium. I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm not chalking up W's for all these like it's a sure win, but there's on that you're looking at even with Pitt, there's no reason why they can't beat the teams that you're showing there. Now, will they do a run like that in 5 games? We'll see.
well, and I noticed Virginia Tech, it used to be intimidating at Virginia Tech on Thursday nights in the Beamer Ball era, but they're nowhere near intimidating now.
Yeah, didn't they own Thursday for a while there? Jeez.
Yeah,
Seemed
they
like-
did, but it was like they don't anymore, unfortunately.
I kind of hope they don't run that table after the bye week, because if they get to like a 9-3 and end up going to like a Duke's Mayo Bowl and play a team like an Ole Miss or something, they're going to get just smashed. It's not even going to be competitive.
Yeah. So,
Is there any other games that we want to mention or teams specifically from this past weekend?
Arkansas, Texas A&M. Are we ready to say there's a hot seat for Sam Pittman or no?
I mean, they're
No.
there though. Like the fans like want him to want but I don't know. Maybe out next year will be his hot seat.
Yeah. But at the same time, you're 2-3 with KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders. It looks bad.
Yeah, but Arkansas's
Right.
defense is not quite there yet.
No. But
KJ
they
Jefferson-
got a rebound. Oh, go ahead.
KJ Jefferson might be the best dual threat quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, they got to rebound quick next Saturday against Ole Miss. So, and after that, they got Big Bad Bama.
Well, I think we covered a lot here tonight then. We've gone over the polls, we've gone over a lot of the games. And just remember, chat, defense is apparently optional for certain teams in college football today.
Certain conferences.
Definitely certain conferences. There's been a lot of offense this year so far. And it's about to explode, I think, even more. I think Tim would agree with that, especially on our ends, depending on who we're about to start playing. The offenses are going to explode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. The numbers will get ugly. Oh, that's what I said. You're not going to have really good defensive numbers in the Pac-12. If you do have an insanely good defense, because there's no other conference in America that has the offenses that the Pac-12 have. Period. I mean, everyone wants to give me another conference that has 5 or 6 teams who can light it up like the Pac-12. Let me know.
Well, I'm not hearing any complaints or anything from anyone, so I think that we're in agreement with that.
Wait, where's Go Blue? Is Go Blue here? Oh, he's not here today. All right.
No, I think when it comes to offense, Pac-12 is leading it the way right now.
I think that Go Blue would actually try to argue that the Big Ten has better offenses if he was here. So I'll give him an honorary mention.
From top to bottom, no. I mean, I think if Harbaugh wanted to, I think his offense could, not USC, but I think he could keep up with a lot of them. Ohio State, obviously. Penn State could, but Maryland could. But after those 4 teams, there ain't an offense in the rest of the conference.
Well, I'd love to hear in the chat, especially Mark if he's still here. If you put Oregon, Washington, USC, and let's just for the heck of it throw Washington State in there, right? Into the Big Ten. Where do those 4 schools go in the best offenses in the conference?
I would say now this year I don't know because of Kyle McCord. If we were going with the CJ Stroud of last year, I think they would be up there with USC and Washington.
Okay.
Wazoo would probably be 5th or 6th. Oregon.
Wait, did you say you put Ohio State up with USC and Washington?
If they still had CJ Stroud, yes.
Yeah, okay, I know, but they don't have CJ Stroud.
Oh yeah, right now with Kyle McCord, no.
Right.
I think Washington and USC would be 1 and 2.
And then where do you slot in Oregon and Washington State?
Washington State, I don't know, 5th, 6th. I'd put
And then Oregon.
4th.
Okay, so then you're saying that they would have 4 of the top 5 offenses in the Big Ten.
4 of the top 5, 4 of the top 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Well, I mean,
So what I'm saying is,
take out
if we're
Michigan,
looking at-
Ohio State, Penn State, and Maryland. Like I said, there is not an offense in the Big Ten. No argument. I mean, if you look at the Big Ten West, top to bottom, there ain't an offense in there. And then the rest of the East is Indiana, Michigan State, and Rutgers. Ain't no offense in there. So yeah, I would say top 4 of the top 6 minimum.
well, Uncle Rico, it would not be the first time you called me a fool, but I think you're the one looking foolish here. I think that what I will say is, and I've said this to Mark very clearly, is that every game, Kyle McCord's going to get better. That's just going to happen. That's just almost a fact. But can Ohio State be on the level of a USC offense or a Penix Washington offense? Probably not this year.
No.
You guys got 2 great receivers and a great running back, but I don't see it.
I saw this pop up, and we have shown this on the Oregon show once before. Right now, the top 5 offenses in the country right now are, in order, total. Now, this is total offense.
Yeah,
that's
that's a terrible stat.
I know. This is total offense. Hey, you'd be happy with this. Washington, Oregon, Southern Cal, UCF, and Washington State.
Okay, so that's total yards, right? Here's what I'll
Those
say.
are
This is
totals.
offensive points per drive in order: USC, Washington, Oregon, and who's 5th? I gotta drop down. Air Force,
Oh,
and then
Air Force.
6th is Michigan. So
Oh yeah, Air Force in there.
the metric there is how many points for every drive you have, how many points are you putting on the board?
Well,
Because getting a
the point
bunch
is,
of empty calories and picking up yards between the 20s, that doesn't mean crap. It's
the
are
top
you
three?
putting that
The
thing
top
in
3
the-
still didn't change, just the order. But the top 3 were the same. So,
But
there you
what
go.
is that? Hey, what would happen if we went back to 1994, Ben? That might change.
But yeah, if we went back to '94, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oregon won the Pac that year.
well, we could definitely compete in those stats if it was just the first half, because in all of our games, Harbaugh throws in our 3rd stringers halfway through the 3rd quarter, and our points per game drop at that.
But you know what, Mike? Most schools are doing that as well. They're doing that at Oregon. They do it at USC as well. So
Yeah, outside the Texas
oh,
Tech game, it's been the same thing. Tech,
Oh,
we
we're-
had to play the whole time.
Oh, when did Caleb get taken out against Colorado?
no, not against Colorado. He played the whole game, Colorado.
Okay.
But 4 out of 5 games, he was taken out, and he was being taken at halftime. I remember that being up there. The fact that he's not playing. So yeah, his total stats. But by the way, guess who's leading the country in touchdown passes?
I don't know. It was Hartman, but
Don't
that was
think too
before
hard.
Ohio State.
Don't think too hard about this. I'll give you a hint.
It's Caleb Williams.
It's got to be Caleb because Penix had a terrible outing yesterday.
Is it Shador Sanders?
No, Shador Sanders is leading in total yards passing. But again, he's played almost every snap of every game that they played in. And to his credit, they put up some great numbers but against a lot of schools. But and yes, Rico, I did say that. But at some point, there has to be some kind of metric. Right? I mean, I didn't start quoting best defenses. I think it was, best offenses. I think it was someone else. I just said that is kind of it's just an empty calories. You great. You picked up a lot of yards between the 20s. Did you score a touchdown? That's really what you want to know in an offense.
But yes,
Or at least kick a field
did
goal.
just say that. Yeah,
But thanks
so
for the
you
love,
want
Uncle
points.
Rico. You're always there for support. I appreciate you.
Uncle Rico's awesome. Always calling us out.
I want him to find some happiness because maybe he wouldn't be so mad in the chat if he finds some happiness. That's your challenge this week, Uncle Rico. Go out there and find your happy place.
Yeah, I have to go
think
watch
this is happy.
Michael Penix tapes.
Yes,
Well,
I
Michael
think we're
Penix,
going
we
to.
saw that. He went down to the desert and actually laid an egg. I mean, they put up 31 points and he didn't throw a touchdown pass. So much for him being the Heisman leader. Let's put it that way.
I mean, we hate the Huskies, but in defense of Washington, once again, it was in the desert. They're about to go into a bye week, and then they have to host us after a bye week, which we have the same bye week. So I think they just were like, let's get to this bye week and be, and they're Washington. They're one of the top teams in the pack itself. So every team is going to give them their all. So.
Oh yeah, Tim. Any word on Rice?
Oh, was he injured?
Yeah, he went out I don't know if he finished the game or not.
He went down awkward. No, he came back in one more play. One more play.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, it did look bad though on the replay. It looked like he.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, he's having a great season. He was like, it's a shame because last year he had a bunch of drops, like a bunch of people were all over him. He's put together this season. He's like, I mean, his speed is something amazing. When he gets going, he separates himself from the secondary. So he's
got wheels like his dad. That's for sure.
Yeah, that separation is definitely evident.
See what I mean? Uncle Rico is in his happy place.
You bring out the
injury. Sorry, Mike.
I was just saying you bring out the best in everyone.
I try. I'm a giver, Mike. I'm a giver.
Well, gentlemen, I think we've covered quite a bit tonight. So please, let's go ahead and do this. Let's give the final word. Tim, please, your promotion as usual.
Well, so we're doing something new on the USC channel. We're doing actual call-in shows with telephones, and we had just a really great show earlier today using telephone lines instead of StreamYard. It was really live and active, and it was great. But we're going to continue to do that. So if you get a chance on Thursday night, it will not be the Buffaloes, but we're doing our live call-in show. We do cover other things besides USC, so you can check that out. Also, Monday, you always see us. We had Trojan Conquest Live, so we had an issue with the name. So the USC Live is going away because, well, that's what USC Athletic Department uses for their Monday show. So we had to rename it and rebranded it, the old show that we had. So it's going to be Trojan Conquest Live. That's 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern tomorrow night. If you want to come check that out. Wednesday, we got the Pac-12 show with me and Chris and Tony and sometimes Rick. And again, Thursday night's that live call-in show. And then, as always,
it's just another USC game.
Yeah, and then the post-game show on the USC after the USC game, as always, with the guys. So yeah, I'm on this channel.
How can you guys call that the Pac-12 weekly show when it's all about USC? It's all USC guys.
Well, why would we talk about anything else? What else matters in the Pac-12? Come on, we're just jumping ahead 5 or 6 weeks, so we don't have to deal with all the riffraff. What are you talking about? By the way, that show was open to everyone. It just happened to be that 3 Trojans and a Bruin, by the way, were the ones that wanted to do the show. It was just like this one. We would put it out there, and some people wanted to do it, some people didn't. I'm looking at you, Ben. I'm looking at you. You could have been
invited. I got invited once, and never again after that first show on the Pac-12 show. But anyways, shots fired. You calm yourself down, Spaz, or I will remove you from this panel. I swear. Jackson, work your magic. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter, and you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Threads, and of course, you can find me on YouTube, where I have some videos of my instant reactions, and you can also see plenty of my episodes of the Jacksonian. Stay tuned.
That is true. And you have your Discord too, the Jacksonian.
Yep.
People can chat with you.
Which I just joined this week.
It's been popping so far.
Yep.
Mike, you have no social media, we know.
Nope. If you want to find me, you can find me on all the Mark's channels. Michigan is moving to Tuesday, along with John Diademo's doing the Ocho in the day. It's going to come, I think it's coming out at the same time. I don't know if he's moved the Texas channel, but Texas is always they're on Tuesdays as well, unless that's moved. Just help along the channel. You can get you some of this cool swag like I'm wearing. If Jackson was to put the link for that up there, make sure you throw in the Amazon.
That's right.
And I'll go ahead and let you guys promote yourselves and go blue.
And that's right. Yeah. Check the description too of the video, because I know that those links for the merch store and Amazon are in the description. So definitely check those out as they've been on the screen, except for the merch store. So that's my bad. Definitely check out the descriptions. Will, you're everywhere.
Yeah, Will and D on YouTube, Marcus_era on Twix, I guess we call it now. Yeah, me and Jeffrey's show, it might be tomorrow night, it might be Thursday, depending on how much time I have, but yeah, we'll try to get that in this week. Yeah.
Spaz, I just copy you because we're on together most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, Rocky Classic on Twitter, it says down there, and Instagram, and Sean 1975 on TikTok, and up to 100 viewers now, or 100 people, 900 to go, and I can get my Instagram live or whatever that is, TikTok.
Almost there.
And Tuesday and Saturdays.
Well,
Ben, that leaves you.
yeah, I'm just Ben here of Exploring with Ben and Sam on Twitter, here at the Exploring with Ben. Go to the YouTube here, Exploring with Ben and Sam. You can find the Instagram and TikTok links there through the YouTube channel. Check us out if you like. It's not sports related, but that's what it is. Big preview coming out tomorrow night on Monday for the premiere on Tuesday. Go check it out. You'll be wanting to see that. Then you'll find me with Spaz here every Tuesday for the Oregon Live Show and Oregon Post Games, and then here every Sunday for the After Dark Show with usually these degenerates that have nothing better to do than continue to talk college football after the weekend's over. We're not even previewing next week. That's how much time we can spend doing all this. But everyone, please, thank you for joining in. We appreciate it as always. Mark appreciates it. Do check out the Discord, the Patreon, become a YouTube member. Check out the bottom 10 video Mark released. Check out the Big 12 channel, the SEC channel, and the Big 10 channel. And look for your favorite team right here on the Voice of College Football Network. You will find it. And then you will find us here every Sunday for the After Dark Show. Next week, we will be moving it to 10 p.m. Eastern time, so a little earlier than normal, just a little bit, make it easier on everyone. So I just want to give heads up, but you'll see the notification, so make sure you hit that notification bell. And as usual, gentlemen, I appreciate you for joining in.
Always fun being here.
And I
Thank you very much.
still want my damn cheeseburger.
Brown
cheeseburger,
jug,
Mark.